Additionally, small businesses often have limited resources and may not be able to afford commercial space, putting them at a disadvantage compared to large businesses. By offering some flexibility in zoning regulations, small businesses can thrive and contribute to the community's economic development. Alternative actions, I just think that zoning changes would permit small businesses to operate similar to transient rentals, because we're assuming that since it's a large revenue generator, that transient rentals are here to stay. So with that being said, you can take your residential property and turn it into a business. So why can't I have my business operate from my house, if that's the case? Both transient rentals and small businesses offer distinct advantages, but they should be regulated in a similar fashion. Allowing transient rentals to operate in residential areas without adhering to similar regulations as small businesses creates an unfair advantage. By treating both entities equally, we can ensure that they are both held in the same standard and that the community's interests are protected. It's important to strike a balance between the economic benefits and potential drawbacks of permitting transient rentals in residential areas, while also providing small businesses with the flexibility that they need to thrive. Therefore, we need to work towards a more equitable solution that benefits everybody. Now, there are several specific clauses and sections of the municipal code that can be targeted for reform to address the disparity in zoning regulations between transient rentals and small businesses. This includes section, no pun intended, 7.4.20. This defines transient rentals and specifies their permissible locations. 17.28.110, which outlines the requirements of commercial space, including square footage and parking requirements. And section 17.28.20, which lists the allowed use of residential zones and specified the conditions for home-based businesses. These actions could be revised to provide more flexibility. And in conclusion, while both transient rentals and small businesses offer distinct advantages, there are contrasting treatments under current zoning laws that calls for reevaluation. It's time to readdress these disparities and look at a more equitable solution. Although zoning laws may aim to serve the public good, they can sometimes become outdated or fail to adapt to modern trends. This disparity between transient rentals and business is a glaring example. Challenging the status quo through community engagement could pave the way for a more inclusive and adaptive zoning policy.
Thanks, Carl. Next, Mary.
Hi there, Mary Schickling, 139 Whitley. I've lived here for 29 years now, and vacation rentals like yours have never really been a problem. I mean, most people they couldn't afford it, but they wanted to have a home here so that they could come here and vacation in the summertime or the holidays or whenever they wanted, and then rent it out the rest of the time that they weren't here, and actually were concerned about their neighbors. And you know how you said that you only rent a week long instead of a weekend to cut down on the partying and all that stuff? That's actually pretty brilliant. I like that idea. You know, so it's really never been that big of a problem. But recently, with the advent of the internet and technology and Airbnb and all of that stuff, it has absolutely exploded. And the problem that I see in this town is not people like you. And there's even people now, when they come into town and they want to do that, I'm okay with that kind of thing. What I don't like and what I can't abide by are the investors that never come here, that buy up properties before they're even on the market to turn them directly into a vacation rental and are not invested in the community. Actually, I know of instances where they have been combative toward neighbors, long-standing people that have owned their own home here for years and years and years, And, you know, we're being nice to the people, and then all of a sudden it turned into this horrible situation. So that's, I think, where a lot of this is coming from, is that angle. And if people want to invest, because this is a beautiful place, and who wouldn't want to, and it's tourist driven, so of course you look at it like an ATM. But yeah, if you want one, have one. I don't think investors, or anyone else for that matter, if you're a mom and pop that can't afford your vacation rental and you rent it out, you know, so that you can come here during the year, during the summer or the winter time or whatever, then I don't think you can afford a second one. So that should be put down. You know what I mean? I think one per person is good enough. And sorry, go invest in another town. There's lots of beautiful places in California, tons of them. And of course, they're all revamping their vacation rental laws too, because they're all getting inundated as well. But I think that's one good jumping off point, is just to limit how many each person can have. And I think, I don't know about the whole cap situation. I think it's really difficult because Hamilton Cove is so saturated. And I know that the argument has been that it was built for like a hotel kind of a situation, and you know, that's fine. But I think there has to be like a finite number, you know, like we have a finite number of vehicles in town. Should we figure out, once you figure out exactly how many we have going back to 1997 or whatever you said, should we like cap it there, you know, and then let attrition take its place? You know, that's kind of because if you do the percentages of certain areas, then that gets into a lot of stuff, because then human nature and bureaucracy, it's difficult to have complete follow-up, follow-through, keep track, because like you said, there's on eucalyptus, there are lots of places where it says maximum occupancy 6 people. And I have tons of people that come up to me and say, okay, my neighboring place is a vacation rental and there were 14 people in there this past weekend. And so there's a lot of oversaturation. So, and I know that we can't put it completely on city staff, but we have to come up with some way to follow up and police and enforce those situations as well. So if you don't know me, I am on council as well, but I love this city. So I am very, very, very pleased to see all of you come out, and very interested to hear all of your opinions, and because it takes a village to come together and get this right, and let's, you know, to keep it a lovely place for those of us that want to live here, be able to live here and find a place to live and continue to work here. So thank you all, and let's keep working on this.
Kate, and as Kate's walking up, I just want to mention that anybody that's online, if you would like to speak, raise your hand and we'll eventually get to you if you don't already have your hand raised. Thanks, Kate.
Hello, Kate Rudden. I live in Hamilton Cove. Sorry, I have my mask. Appreciate everybody being here today. Couple of things in talking off of what Mary had said. A lot of cities are dealing with this. This is not just an Avalon problem. It's become an Avalon problem because there are more and more issues related to quality of life and also impact on your property. I think lack of enforcement has caused us to put in more regulations that are required to maintain quality of life for people. Some cities, like the city of San Diego, has dealt with people who own multiple properties. And those people own a business. They own a rental business. We're not talking about people who own a home, live there, rent it out a portion of the time for vacationers, or they own one property and they've had a vacation rental business. That's one property. We're talking about people who own multiple businesses, and the city of San Diego has said that is a business and we're gonna tax you for a business tax because you're running a mini hotel in the community of San Diego. Other things that have been done are lowering occupancy. If we lowered occupancy rates, what that would involve is less people in a property, but it would also require people to rent additional properties, which would give the city more TOT. The city's very concerned about losing revenue, and that is one way to help with the mitigation of many people in a property, really monitoring that, unless there's a family. So if there's a one-bedroom place that allows typically in this new realm 2 people, if somebody had a family and they had 2 kids that were beneath the age of 18, then they could rent that property, but that would have to be monitored by the rental company. Another thing that cities have done is if you rent your property more than 90 days, your business license, not business tax, which would be a percentage of your revenue, but your business license would be $1,000 a year. Because if you're renting more than 90 days a year, you're also close to running a business. In addition to that, we do have an application fee that people pay, and we need the owners of the property to provide more information for our staff, pictures, proof of homeowner's insurance. If they have a golf cart, we need registration, we need insurance, we need fire sprinklers in homes that do not have fire sprinklers. We need the owner to pay for an inspection report. We also need that owner to put together a saturation map. That saturation map for the city of Avalon should be on the city website so people can access it. Do they own other properties? Have they had other complaints? Complaints should be held and housed in a central place for at least 2 years because licenses come up every year. And right now, there is no central housing for complaints. Police don't necessarily give the address to the city. The city just put our complaint form online because we asked for it. There's no way to attach a video. I would say 99% of the complaints that come through are noise related, but you can't attach a video to the complaint form so you can hear the noise. So that would be certainly something that would be beneficial. The owners should represent themselves at the hearing for the Planning Commission. Oftentimes it's a realtor or a property management company. Well, how can a property management company represent an owner when they don't have a contract yet because the property doesn't have a permit yet? Put all of that online so people can see the application, the owner, how many units they have, where they're from, what their intent is for the property. Are they going to plan to rent it more than 90 days? Are they going to never come to Avalon? Do they have 4 or 5 other properties in Avalon? And also understanding what the zoning code is for the area that they're renting in. Those are just some things that other cities have done. And again, Avalon is not the only city dealing with this. I do want to address some issues that have come up. One of the things is the rights of the property owner to do whatever they want with their property versus a quality of life for the community and residents. And Hamilton Cove was built as a second home community. The Coastal Commission, and let me be really clear about this, the Coastal Commission never required that Hamilton Cove have short-term vacation rentals. Doesn't exist. The permit was written in June 18th, 1980. At that time, the Coastal Commission said, we want you to build affordable housing, that's Tremont, a campground, Hermit Gulch. In June 4th of 1980, the developer, which is part of Santa Catalina Island Company, came back and said, We think that approximately 50% of the 165 condominium units will be eligible for vacation rentals over 30 days. Coastal Commission never voted on it. Hamilton Cove then put in their CCNRs that you would be eligible to rent more than 30 days, and then they changed that to less than 30 days to help sell these properties. Hamilton Cove has exploded to 70% vacation rentals. Now, this is a residential community. I wrote to the Coastal Commission and I said, we are oversaturated. People call us a hotel. Well, when I talk about the quality of life in my property, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, who service loans for lenders, have deemed us a condo hotel because we're over 50% of transient rentals. So not only is my quality of life impacted, the categorization of my home has been impacted. When I bought 25 years ago, we were not at 70%. I was never told we were a hotel. I can tell you that most of the people that live out there and bought as second homes never told we were a hotel. So, when you change the characterization of a property, like a condominium association, you really need to look at the entire impact that that has on a community. We need to entice people to live in Avalon. We need to encourage visitors to have a great time. These one and done parties that come out don't service our community, but it's the longtime families that have come out year after year after year. And those folks, from what I've seen, aren't coming back because it's gotten too expensive and they don't have a good time anymore. That's lost that je ne sais quoi that it used to have. So I do think we have an opportunity to focus on enforcement. I think there are some easy things that we can do to help city staff mitigate, have owners participate more in the application process. And I also think we need to fine people when they break the law. Avalon Municipal Code is a law. If you have a transient rental license, you have to adhere to Avalon Municipal Code. If you don't, you should be fined. Other cities also make owners reimburse fire and police if they're called out on properties where transient rental issues occur. So these are some things that can help the city with revenue. At the end of the day, we are a tourist community, but we're also a residential community, and we need to start treating the residents with more credibility and more sympathy and more empathy than we do the tourists. Thank you.
Next, please.
We have George Paquette online.
Okay, we'll take it online.
George?
George, are you there? George, we can't hear. I'm not sure if he's speaking, so we'll go. Dave, if you want to come on up to the podium, we'll come back to George. But
Can't unmute himself.
Dave Thompson, 110 Chimes Tower Road. Back in the day, I was on a housing trust fund, and Al Solomon was the co-chair of that. That's how far back it goes. I was on another housing committee with Eric Hewitt. And basically at the time, there was redevelopment money that was available through the state. They used that money, the city had that money, and they used it to finance some down payments for people that in Avalon. So the city had some money and they were able to use it for some things that worked out really well for some people, which is better than right now where the city has like no money at all for these things. If you wanted to build a 100-room hotel in Avalon, absolutely you'd have mitigations on that. And the mitigations would be, you have to build housing for the people that you're planning to have work at your hotel. Lately, there's been a few places that have slipped through the cracks, Vaughan, St. Gray. I don't know how that happened, but they're employing more people than they ever did previously, yet there was no mitigation. Hamilton Cove had a big mitigation. We already heard about that with Tremont and Campground. Really what needs to happen is that the people that are having the rentals, that's like 30 of these properties equal a 100-room hotel. So, I mean, and there's something like, 300 plus houses that are renting out 3-4 bedrooms. They need to pay into a fund because that would be their mitigation. The mitigation is, yes, you are allowed to do this, you pay into the fund, and with the fund, the city is able to do other things with it. They could even help with incentives for people that don't want to become short-term rentals. Or if people wanted to go back to being like a long-term rental, that they could help them with their possibly paying for their sewer fees or trash pickup. So they kind of hold and help keep what units that we already have here in place. Plus, if there was a fee each year for the short-term rentals, and I'm talking a significant amount of money, there'd be a lot less people wanting to jump in there. But you can't expect the city to pick up all the expense of you come in and have your business, and that's working really good for you. But there's a whole bunch of other causes and effects and expenses that the city and the town is getting hit with, and you're not chipping in on that. I know you're paying a TOT. Maybe that needs to be raised, and the money needs to go to a fund. But somehow the city has to start collecting and getting money so that they could do something with it. Otherwise, the city is always going to have their hands behind their back. So something has to happen in that regard where we have a housing trust fund. Maybe an arm of it could be a 501c3 company where people could donate. Maybe people would like to donate to a housing trust fund that was helping the community. In any case, I do believe that is something that needs to come around, and I do believe it has to be funded by the people that are having these short-term rentals, and possibly even the people that are also having the hotels, because it all kind of affects the same situation, that we have to collect some money that we can do something with, or we're going to just be yakking about this on and on and on. So I thank you for your time, and maybe that's a consideration.
Thanks, Dave. All right, we're going to go online here.
We're gonna try George again. Okay, George. He's up.
George Paquette, you there? Okay. Okay. So we'll circle back to the online folks here in a minute. Anybody else in the audience want to come up to the podium? All right.
Hey guys, Thomas. So I wrote a couple of notes. I liked the Lewis Carroll quote, if you don't know where you're going, everywhere goes there. But also, if you don't know where you're going, maybe you shouldn't get on the road. So I guess I think that at the heart of all of this, we really need to know what the problems are, right? So, you've talked a lot about what you think are anecdotes or things that are obvious to you, but all of them are based on your short experience on this island, and no offense by that, I just mean, in deference, that we really need to hear from the community what is impacting you, because without knowing that, we can't do anything. As a community, we can't get any better until we know what actually affects you. So thank you to you both and thank you to you. You guys actually addressed really important concerns. And I feel like at the end of the day, a good working group and a focused meeting that is just a small group that talks about, from your side, what is your angle? I mean, yours, you want to exclude people who don't have the opportunity that you've had, Ms. Shickley, of investing on the island. I happen to know about a guy who invested on the island a while ago before there was vacation rentals here, and he made chewing gum, and now we're all here. And then also what you have also, and your points about this being structured and organized and people being responsible for their vacation rentals is important. It's extremely important. And with the rules that you've spoken about and the concerns that you have, they need to be addressed. And they need to be codified, I guess, in some way, in a way that we can all make everybody at least a little bit happier, a little bit better about what actual problems you're having. Not, she said this and she said this. Hey, this is impacting my neighbor because of this. And what can we do about this focused issue? And what if we did set up a part of TOT to work on housing? I mean, that is very difficult in this space because we are in an artificially constrained atmosphere, meaning we can't expand the city unless that's some magic I don't know about. The city is not going to get bigger this way, and I hope it's not getting bigger this way. So, you know, we have to work in this area, but the intent of this charter of this city is visitation. The intent of how not just vacation rentals, but the shops that work on the street, the fishermen who work here, the tourism people, the people who drive the bus to go into the interior, all of them aren't depending on you and me who live here. They're depending on our friends who get on that boat and come across the channel and help pay for our infrastructure. And that's beautiful. We live in a really, really special place. And all of us need to be responsible exactly in the way that you said. We need to be responsible for that, and every single one of us need to do that. And whether it be through business license, through that charity that you mentioned, I'm sorry, I don't mean to call it charity because it's not charity, but your words were better than mine. In some way, we need to figure out a focus group to talk about that from every side. So one person from every angle needs to talk about this and say, what can we do about this? Let's make this a project. It doesn't have to take us that long. If we just meet once a week for a couple of hours, and there's just a small group of minds who are really motivated, everyone's not gonna agree. But the thing is, that's what negotiation is about, and that's how you make progress in any democratized society. So maybe not infringe on the rights of property owners or people who you call foreign investors or something like that, but maybe just focus on the residents who are here and what they would like to see. Would they like the price of milk to be the same value as it is at Vaughn's today? Or should we have no infrastructure to support a Vaughn's? That's okay too, if that's the direction the community wants to go. But restricting this even more artificially than it already is, there's a beautiful map right there of our city limits. It's not going to get bigger, but it can get better. Thank you.
Leslie Warner, 306 Whitley. First, I want to say, wow, what a lot of excellent ideas, and it's so wonderful we've all had this opportunity to be together. Personally, I just like to add a few things. First off, I think we absolutely need more time than 45 days. We do not want to rush this process. We want to take time to really refine it and make it work. Secondly, I do believe we need a cap, absolutely need a cap. We are an island, we are not Palm Springs. A percentage is not going to work, because if we do eventually, hopefully, add affordable housing, that percentage, if we have one in place, will mean more vacation rentals would be allowed. And I think we need, just like vehicles, absolutely need a cap. Right now, if we're at about 1,493, I think, is the amount of residential units we have, we are at 27.5% vacation rentals, with or without current licenses. I believe we need to bring that down to 20%, which would be 300. It's going to take a long time, but we do it with our vehicles. We need to do it with our housing. The lovely woman that got up here and said it's hard to find housekeepers to clean her rentals. Hello, right? That's why we're doing this. We need to provide housing for the people who take care of all the visitors that are coming. So, a couple other things, I think it was brought up. Sheriff reports, when they go to a vacation rental, I would like that to be conveyed to the city so that that information can be collected, as was suggested earlier. Currently, do we ask for an Airbnb listing to have their city license number on their listing? If they don't, they should. It would be an easy way to see if they're complying, if they actually are a legal listing. And if they're not a legal listing and we find them, should be a big fine, not a little letter saying, oh, we found out you're illegal, please take it down. No, no, no. They need to be held responsible. They live here, they bought property, they need to be educated. So I would really encourage that. And then the part about enforcement that is difficult is that we as the neighbors become the watchdogs. And that's what tears apart our community. When you're calling on people that are living next door to you as vacationers, it just creates animosity. So how can we embrace this situation, like we've said, with more respect, with more kindness, but with enforcement? Mean what you say what you mean, follow through. And finally, it was mentioned that investors are coming in and buying multiple properties. I don't think it should be one per person. I think it should be one per entity, because you could have a husband have one and the wife have one, and maybe the kid has one, or maybe the LLC has one. So we really need to tighten that up, because that is absolutely got to stop. So anyway, I just want to say thank you again. It's really great to have so many people here, and I hope we can all do this together.
You still trying to get online up and running?
Matt?
Okay, we can try one.
Okay, George, I'm gonna unmute you. Matt, I can't get it to unmute.
Still can't do it?
No, it won't unmute.
Okay, back in here, next, George.
Hello, everybody. I'm George McCormick. I live in Playa Azul in Hamilton Cove. I've spoken at other meetings before, and one of the last meetings I brought up the fact that maybe the Planning Commission and the city should look at everyone who's doing short-term renting, the owners who are doing that, in the same category, because some have one house And and where they live part-time or they live in the summer and they share and they fund that house with one person. Other people have 3, 4, 5 units that they're renting out, really becoming a residential hotel kind of arrangement. So, and looking at that, following up on that earlier comment, I noticed that the city of San Diego, I get music too. The city of San Diego has actually looked at owners and tried to categorize owners in some ways. They set up owners and tried 4 tiers.
Okay, try to go again, George. We're seeing, getting some feedback.
Okay, so they have 4 tiers of owners. So they looked at this. The first tier were owners who short-term rent less than 20 days a year, and the owner does not need to reside at that residence, and they can rent 20 days a year, and there's no limit to the number of people who can do that. The second tier were owners who reside on site, and they have someone, they rent a room or part of the house to someone, and those people also, there's no limit to that category of owner. The owner has to be there 275 days a year at least. This is considered home sharing, and actually, so in this group category, there's no limit to the number that could be there, of the number of owners who could be in this short-term rental category. The third and fourth tiers are owners who rent more than 20 days a year, and the owner does not live on site. And in this case, we're often concerned in this, in Catalina, they do not even live on the island, not just in the residence. So, and the only difference between tier 3 and tier 4 are those who have an owner in Mission Bay, where they have a cap of 30%, or the city of San Diego, where there's a cap of 1% of all available housing. So, and in those 2 categories, there's actually, in tier 3 in the city of San Diego, even though that's only 1%, they still have lots of opportunities for owners to do short-term renting in that group. The only group that can't rent, that they've actually booked at and had to have a lottery, was tier 4, because that's Mission Bay, and it's a little bit like Catalina. It's just swamped with visitors all the time. So they have a lottery to decide who could be short-term, reach that in that 30% of short-term renters. And then above that, they were still allowed to be able to rent long-term, as many as they wanted, or they could not rent if they chose. So all the owners in these tiers have to have a TOT certificate. They have to have a rental business account. And actually, those things have to be posted at the site along with a 24/7 number for contact. And they have to have somebody who can respond within an hour. In San Diego, we're much smaller. Here, we usually expect 30 minutes. So, and then certainly in the tier 3 and 4 groups, they have to maintain guest stays, records of guest stays, gross receipts, and they have to provide quarterly reports as well, which seems a reasonable thing, so the city knows how people are managing those short-term rentals, especially when they have multiple units. I think that Kate already mentioned the various fees that occur, especially the business license required. So that's all I want to say about tiers. I don't think these tiers necessarily apply in this way to Avalon, but Avalon can set up its own structure of tiers for different types of owners and how they want to do that, how they want to have set up a business license, how they might charge. There's different costs for each of those tiers for business license applications and business and fees per year, depending on which tier you're in. So if you're in tier 3 or 4, you're paying a much higher fee than the first 2 categories. So. I think I'll stop here for now, but I just wanted to bring in the idea of having, looking at owners who do short-term renting. And we know in Catalina, it usually isn't 1 week. We have people who rent 1 week, but we also in Hamilton Cove, it's usually 3 or 4 days. And 1 week, the owner feels lucky if they get 1 week. That doesn't happen very often. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, George. Next, all the way back to you. I'm sorry, you had your hand up before, so.
John LaFleur, 31 Cabrillo. I moved here in 1988. The discussion about affordable housing, the discussion about too many vacation rentals started that year when I first got here. So we've been talking for over 30 years about a problem that has never been solved. It's easy to point fingers. It's easy to say, I've got mine, you can't have yours. I've lost employees because they couldn't find affordable housing unless I paid them $40 an hour, and then I'm out of business. We have to solve the problem. No if, no ands, no buts. Cities have gone through and said, we're capping a certain percentage of our community for vacation rentals. Yes, it's going to be difficult. Yes, many people who have invested here will not like it. But the reality is, like, you could not find people to come clean your house. Every business in Avalon is suffering as far as their employee base is concerned. And a lot of it has to do with the cost of affordability for people to live here. You have a right to invest wherever you want, but I would love to see Avalon move forward and put those restrictions into law and explain to any potential future buyer of what our rules and regulations are so that we can have a community, not just one big family resort, without thinking about the quality of the community, the quality of the parents that live here, that want to raise their kids, that don't want to work 3 jobs, because then their kids suffer. And everybody suffers because we're not taking care of, quote, the community. Thank you.
Anybody else in the room?
Hi, Kathleen Carlisle. Are we supposed to give our address?
Yes, please.
311 East Whitley. I apologize for being late. I don't know what was said and what wasn't, but I did speak before when City Council let us talk about this, and I've lived here all my life. I was born here. We ran a hotel for a long time, so I know all about getting workers. I also know about the visitors, the tourist community coming, the families coming. I know about prices going up. I understand a lot of this. I grew up on a street that probably had 5 families growing on it, living on it when I was growing up, and the rest were vacation homes, but those people came all summer long. They stayed in their homes. And then over the years, people changed them into short-term vacation homes. Different people came when that happened, not the families like before. Just a little bit different, more parties, more rowdy people, things like that. So I watched that transition. I also saw a lot of homes on Eucalyptus where I grew up. People would remodel, make 2 units, but the city had rules at that time, I don't know if they still do, where they require one of the units to be rented for a certain number of years, like 10 years for year-round rental. And then after that time, they could transition it into something more short-term. I don't know if the city still has that rule. I love what David was saying. I love what so many people I heard here were saying about getting together and talking about this and making a plan, because housing is incredibly important. We are a very unique community. I go to Mammoth in vacation, and the road from Bishop to Mammoth every morning is packed with people commuting up to work for the day. We don't have that option here. Our workers need to live here, and they need to be able to afford to live here, and hopefully without having to work 4 jobs to do it. I grew up as a teenager working 4 jobs. That's just what you did, and it's kind of what you needed to do. So I want to see that change. I want affordable housing. I think it's a travesty that we didn't make this giant corporation named Vaughn's build housing, that we didn't do an environmental impact report and say, not only do they have to provide housing, but they have to build housing. Because by providing housing, they just take up units that are already there. There's other businesses that have expanded, put in a lot of wonderful things, and added employees. We have not required them to build housing. So that needs to be something that's addressed. As far as actual transient rentals, I have some opinions on that as well. I have, in the last couple of years, had to live above one. I obviously grew up on Eucalyptus, where, like I said, we were tons and tons of vacation rentals. But this one is unique in that my house is right above it, and it has a jacuzzi. So they promoted it as a party house. There have been huge parties, weddings on this deck that they have. And the owner promoted it like that. It used to say that online. They've taken those things down off of the website now. and they at least get their tenants, or try to, by 10 p.m. But 9 times out of 10, it's like 11 p.m., and I finally text the owner. I'm like, the people are noisy, and the new people that are watching over it at least try to get them quieted down. When I first did this, the lady who was in charge, whose phone number was on the thing, wouldn't go. She told me to call the police. I told her to call the police, and she said, no, you just call the police. And then the people threw eggs at my house. Dozen eggs thrown on the front of my house by the renters because I called the police at like 1 a.m. to get them to shut up and turn off the jacuzzi. So living above a rental like that, this person has had multiple complaints, and they just went to the Planning Commission and they got another TOT CUP house. So the Planning Commission had no codified law to do anything about that. It didn't say if this person's had this many complaints, you can refuse them another CUP. So that could be something that could be spoken about in this committee. It would be really important. Also, safety issues. I argued when this person got their CUP that they shouldn't be allowed to loan out their golf cart. So they officially aren't, but they let people borrow it. You would not believe the drunk people that go driving down East Whitley, which the rental companies have a sign at the top not allowing the rental cars to go down that. It's a dangerous street. So you take vacation rental people that are having giant parties. I noticed lots of Hamilton Cove golf carts come to this house because obviously they're renting places at Hamilton, and Hamilton will not allow outside people to come in to go to a party. So all of their friends, like 3 golf carts from Hamilton Cove, will come park at this house, and then there'll be a big party on this deck. So numerous neighbors have complained, and this person continues to have a CUP. It's never been taken away. So this complaint system needs to be fixed. And then if they try to get another CUP, please, that should be considered. So let's see, was there anything? And the safety can be considered, whether they get a golf cart on a street that the rental companies won't even allow a thing on. I think that's about it. I don't know what else was addressed, so I just thank everybody for being here, and I hope we can do something about this to help everybody.
Any progress, Donna, do we think?
Okay, I saw George as unmuted.
Okay, let's try this. George?
Yeah, can you hear me okay now?
Yeah.
Yeah, my wife is still.
Okay. Hi, this is Brent Humphreys. I just received an unmute prompt. Does that mean that I was called on? I'm sorry, I haven't done a lot of raising of hands during Zoom.
Sure, we're just happy that anybody's able to get on, so please go ahead.
Okay. Hi, thank you for allowing me to participate. My name is Brent Humphreys. My wife, Carrie, and I own 45 Camino de Flores in Avalon. I've appreciated the comments of everyone, and I appreciate the civility, knowing that this is a very hot topic, and residential peacefulness, and an environment where we are all acting like a family and civil and don't have rapport mitigation in a matter of seconds when there are complaints is very, very important. My head's not in the sand. I've been paying attention to and reading a lot of articles and participating in owner groups and SMS chats, and also Zooms offline, just thinking about what was going to be shared tonight. And what I wanted to say was that I really, really care about everyone in Avalon, whether they're opposed to STRs or absolutely pro-STR. It amazes me how important visitation is to this island. And I wanted to just speak just my own experience so that I just feel it's important that things aren't broad-stroked, and that people think that everyone in Hamilton Cove is just some, out of town or over town, I guess is the word, investor that just doesn't give a rat's about anybody. Many of us do. I feel that Hamilton Cove is unique because it is 24/7 guarded. The entire community is under video surveillance. I know that I and many other owners really, really screen our guests Have there been problems? Yes, there have, in Hamilton Cove and in town. But I think what makes Hamilton Cove unique is that we do have a very, very active homeowners association with enforcement and with fines. And I hope that I'm not the only owner that interviews every person before they're allowed into our personal home, which is also a vacation rental. We take them through very, very thick legal agreements that a very reputable law firm known to the island drafted for me to make sure that they're aware of all of the fines, that they're aware that this is a residential community, that they're aware that quiet hours truly mean quiet hours, that they're aware of the time, that they know that the rule is if anyone can hear anything at any time, that security can show up. Do some people act like deadbeats? Well, they sure do. But with the prevalence of Ring security cameras, which we advise every guest are on the balcony and also at the doorbell, it is the Ring doorbell, I'm sorry, at the front doorway, people know that not only do we care and that we are watching, but that they're not going to be on the island very long if they misbehave. I think that there's a lot that can be done, but I'm glad that with Hamilton Cove having a 24/7 guard, several guards and security, and everybody watching and enforcement, and us talking with these guests before they arrive to make sure they know what being a good guest looks like. I have fortunately had 0 incidents, and someday it's going to happen. But I think that if we can take enforcement seriously and we can really chat with these people in advance and really listen to our neighbors about what things are happening that are bothersome or burdensome to them, we can work together as a family. One of the things I love about this island is that everybody knows each other. And let's not let this divide us. Let's figure it out. So, thank you.
Thank you, Brett.
Thank you. Oh, and I'm on the island 8 days a month, so it's not like I'm an out of town investor that is disconnected. My goal is to be on the island full time, and being able to Airbnb and get some income to support this property is helping me get there. So thanks.
Thank you. Just let everyone know we're going to go to 2 more online here while we have them queued up.
Lou, are you unmuted?
Oh my gosh.
Yes. Okay, Lou, you're on.
Hello, am I next?
Yes.
Yes, you're on.
Hi. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Louis Scuduto. My family's had a property for probably 56 years on Eucalyptus Avenue. Let's see, how can I summarize this? I'm not quite sure what all the problems are. I know there are a lot of problems, but I agree with the previous speaker that we really need to put all the problems on the table. One area to quantify it is maybe we look at the sheriff reports and really see where a lot of the complaints are coming from for the city as a whole. Historically, as everyone knows, Avalon's been a tourist town. You know, we rented lots, they put tents on it, rented the tents out. So I think there's a way that we can honor that history and move forward. I've noticed in the last 2 years, there's been a maturity of the transient rental occupants. They're definitely a lot quieter, at least on Eucalyptus. Eucalyptus has, at least the section I'm on, has typically been more vacation homes. There are some residents. According to what I hear from the people who don't have active CUPs, they don't plan to do long-term rentals. It just doesn't work out for them. I would like to point out that because of the CUPs, there's a lot of money coming into the city. I think the amount that's generated every time a house turns over, converts to a CUP, is quite significant. And I think some of that money ranges up to $1 million. Where they're rebuilding, and those goods and services is spent in the city. I would like to see some flexibility in the rules For example, one of many examples we could talk about is allowing, if you have a CUP, to have short-term rentals during some portion, but maybe you allow long-term rentals for 9 months so the teachers could be renting them at a competitive price. Also, there seems to be quite a bit of undeveloped land in the city. When I used to look at the tract maps and the zoning laws, the zoning density levels are quite uneven. The hillsides along the upper terrace areas are very low density and discourage development, and the hillsides towards the Zangray are medium density, and I'd like to see more equality there. I think that people that are good owners and renters and landlords with vacation rental permits, maybe they should be rewarded in some way and encouraged. And those that are problematic, I think that, as people have mentioned, that should be tracked. I do agree that when you do have development, maybe they should contribute to low-income housing, if that's the problem. Again, I've heard about this problem for many, many years, and I don't think anyone's really put their finger on it. And I think it's important that we really look at all the problems. Are the problems low-income housing? Are the problems really that we need to develop more economic opportunities for people? So that's it. I'd probably submit a letter and articulate this better. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thanks, Lou. And one more online?
George, are you
I
there?
can you hear me okay?
Hey, George.
Yes.
Oh, great, thanks. So George Paquette, 360 Eucalyptus. I've listened to a lot of these, and I appreciate you guys giving us the opportunity to voice our opinions on this, because a lot of these meetings I've heard were complaints about loud noises and disruption. A lot of it is in Hamilton Cove. I don't hear about it in our area. We haven't had any issues. We're very active owners. We purchased 2 properties that were dilapidated, that were vacant. They were sitting empty for a long time. We rebuilt and made them beautiful homes now that we rent as short-term rentals. We also have monthly renters in those units as well. So we see both sides of it. But these were properties that were generating 0 income and sat for a long time vacant. We made the city look better. We built a significant amount during time of COVID when the island was pretty much shut down. And we tried to do everything the right way. We used all on-island labor. We got everything permitted. We went through all the right processes. We put sprinklers in. We did everything we had to do to abide by the laws. So I think there's a lot of owners that are, and we're in the same boat as Lou. I'm sorry, not Lou, the gentleman before, that, we bought these properties with intentions to move there when we can. Unfortunately, right now, because of work, we can't, but that's the goal. So when we invest in this community and we invest in the homes to make it look better, we're not absent owners or investors that don't care about the island. I've been working on this island for almost 20 years, and I've always wanted to buy something here. So I don't want to be painted in that light, because it's just not fair at the end of the day. And one other point I wanted to make is I hear a lot of people talk about how vacation rentals are taking away monthly rentals. That's just simply not the truth. These are different properties. We had a rental there on Eucalyptus on the corner, a 2-bedroom. We put up for rent, and it sat for 2 months. We couldn't get a rental. We talked to all the realtors. We talked to everybody. Our price wasn't very high at all. We were actually much lower than you would pay in Long Beach or any of the other markets. And we had a couple of people wanting to move in with multiple families, but we were picky about it, so we turned it back into a short-term rental. So I just want to make that point, is we sat for 2 months empty with for rent signs all over the corner. We're right there on the corner. We had signs all over that property, talked to the realtors, talked to the offices, and we couldn't find anybody. So I have empathy for the workers that need housing, but to cover these mortgages, the mortgages are significant. And these aren't going to be monthly rentals. Someone mentioned earlier, the cleaners need places to stay, and these aren't those properties when we invest a lot of money into it. So I agree with everyone that spoke so far that in support of more enforcement. There probably are some bad apples that they're not invested in the property emotionally, where they're not interviewing their guests. We turn away guests every month. We're turning away a lot of potential income because they might be problems. So we interview everybody before they get there. We have cameras on every property, noise sensors, so we can tell when there's problems. So I just want to make that point is, you know, when we're doing it from afar, and we go to the island as much as possible. We have a great relationship with a lot of people on that island. And when we're doing it from afar, we're still in control. We still are watching to make sure we haven't had any complaints. We work hard to make sure that all of our neighbors are happy. You know, and you can't always make everybody happy, but you try your best. So, but we do that with long-term renters and short-term renters. So again, I appreciate the opportunity. I just wanted to voice my opinion on that because I think that a lot of owners are getting painted out to be bad investors off the island that don't care, but that's just simply not the truth.
Thanks, George. Let's go. Do we have anybody else lined up online? Okay, then let's go back in the audience here. Go ahead. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Catherine Lefevre. I own a house on 219 Clarissa. I've been coming to this island for the last 30 years. We finally bought a house a few years back. We do rent our place very legally. We use it a lot. We come a lot. I would like to say that we don't have as many families staying for a long time because the young people can no longer afford, like we did, to go and take our family for a long time at the same place. That's why we have less people, less family that can come here and spend 2 weeks. Catalina is very expensive for the customers. When we come here once in a while, we look at the cost of going to Hawaii, and going to Hawaii, including the plane, is a lot cheaper than coming to Catalina. So we are not making that much money. We use it a lot, but it helps us. I think it helps the community. And if we keep if you raise the taxes on us, we pay like hotels. If you keep raising the cost and you think this is a way to increase and find a solution for all the other problems that we have in the city by just singling this business, it can backfire because we are not people won't come, and if we kill the golden goose that is bringing the income and the job to this community, it can backfire. So we have to be careful with what we do. I only have a house, so we don't bother the neighbors. I mean, we have not had a lot of problems with creating problems. I understand it is a big problem when you live here all the time, and I really understand that, but that's kind of what I think is that you can't raise the cost indefinitely, and it's easy to beat on the owners that are running these small businesses, but I think a lot of people do, wanting to make them legal, asking people to pay their share is really important, but that's my take. I do understand also that it's hard to find people and we need to resolve the housing problem. I want to say that it's not easy for business. I run a business. I'm not retired yet, so we only come part-time here. And even outside of Catalina, it's really hard to find workers. So it's not only in Catalina that we have a problem with that. So that's, I didn't come before, we are not always here, but I just wanted to give my input. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Janie Hall, 334 Clarissa. I would just like to thank Jessica Romero for allowing this to really happen. She's the planning commissioner that just started saying no. And because it stopped the process and made people question, she is my hero. And it's hard to do, I know. You have to be brave because it's very tilted to go with the investment real estate end of things and not just think of the town itself and the community, and that it is, you know, a historic little place that real people live in and not just a hotel. Thank you, Jessica, for having us here.
Yes, sir.
Hello, community. I'm Waldo Martinez. Went to school here and everything. And like he mentioned, we've been hearing about this problem for the longest time. I've heard it growing our whole life. And our whole life, exactly. We heard it growing up in middle school, high school. We heard it the whole time. Housing is an issue. Housing is an issue. Our parents were looking for businesses that would provide housing. And I really think, someone mentioned it, we have a lot of land around. A lot to build. You know, we can do an apartment complex to where it's not low income housing. You know, it's for people, the hardworking people. People that work 2 jobs a day. People that love to work, let alone. Sometimes they don't have to do it. They just love to work. You know, I can say I'm one of them. I like to work, you know. I like to provide service. You know, I'm a manager at Vacation Rentals. And I got this phone right here. For a business to work, you have to have a system in place. If any of you call this number, 2276, dial 9, you leave a voicemail, this is gonna ring. My wife knows, she's present here. His phone has ring at 2 a.m. 5 minutes later, I'm up and I'm there. A lot of people know me here, you know, so we just want a system in place. Vacation rentals is not the problem, has never been the problem. You know, there's land out there, there's people out there that have land that we can talk to where we can build something for the community. It's time, it's not that hard. You know, we're working to get a new hospital up there. Why is it so hard, you know, to get a housing for our community, for the hardworking people, not for the low class, the hardworking people.
Well, who's low income in this town? If you got 4 jobs, you don't classify as low income.
Exactly. We need hardworking. There is buildings that are low income. Why do we have buildings that are low income and not for the middle class, for the hardworking people? Thank you.
Hi, can you hear me?
I'm sorry. Yep.
Hello?
Go ahead online.
Yes, this is Lamont Reeves. I own on Playa Azul in Hamilton Cove. So I am an owner. I visited the island for the first time probably 30 years ago, and I fell in love with the island. During that time, after that, I could not afford to buy in Hamilton Cove or any place on the island, so I did not. But once I did, I purchased a property, and I do short-term rental of my property. I love sharing the island with people. I love sharing Catalina. I love sharing Hamilton Cove. I am an advocate. I'm a fan. I am in a constant love affair with the island and also the people that are there as well. If you've seen me, I'm at Gail Gallon. I'm doing karaoke and making a fool of myself. I talk to my neighbors. I talk to the workers, everyone. I am just trying to understand what the issues are, because as an owner, as a fan of the island, as a fan of the people on the island, I want to do all that I can to make things better. I don't live there full time. I'm there once a month, as long as I can be. But I just want to make sure that I can provide as much input, as much feedback, as much cooperation, as much synergy to allow the people that live there to have the life that they bought into when they moved there. So what I need to know, what I want to know, and a lot of people in our kind of group, we have an SMS group of 18 people, 18 owners in Hamilton Cove, and we all just want to know what can we do to make this better. If there's issues with noise complaints, our numbers are on the Hamilton Cove website. You can call our property managers and they will call us directly, or you can call us directly as well. Just want to know what the issues are so we can actually resolve them versus having this 30-year conversation go on. And that's basically it for me.
Thank you. Ma'am? Oh, she was waiting, sorry. Next.
Hello, I'm Corina Cisneros, 300 Marilla. I have become somewhat of a permanent fixture at these meetings through my work, but right now I'd like to kind of click the other boxes. I'm also a full-time resident. I've been here for more than a decade. I'm also a parent. I'm also a pet owner. I'm also surrounded by residents and visitors, some above, some on the sides. I think what I really want to see more from this working group would be the working class's voice. I want to continue seeing a diverse group versus the 20 people who either hate it or love it. It's nice to see people like myself, people like Lalo, people like Gloria, people like Ingrid who work here, and they made a commitment with the island to live here. It's not easy. I have also gone through moving 4 times in 1 year, but after checking the cost of daycare, transportation, and housing in Long Beach, I have made a commitment that I like this just because it's a safer community for my daughter. And I've worked towards that, and it hasn't been easy, but it also has not been easier than being in Long Beach. So I want to continue, if possible, to hear the voice of the working people, which I'm representing tonight. The second thing I want to represent through my work is the hard yes and no on the moratorium will lead this industry underground. There is no doubt about that. Everyone will have friends and guests of owners, and they will not rent year-round. Maybe a small number will, but you have to be really concerned that putting a ban will just cut corners. The city will see less TOT, and people will become really crafty with their names of their homes, there's a lot of online travel agencies that would allow you to rent your home without having to have an address. So I'd be really careful of engaging and enhancing into the black market of vacation rentals. And solutions should be heard, but from both sides, not just from people who hate and love them, people who live here, people who are, like I said, full-time employed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Ingrid. I've lived on this island for about 10 years. I work for Catalina Island Vacation Rentals. I don't believe that vacation rentals are the issue on the island. I've also had a hard time finding housing, but I managed. I never thought or blamed the vacation rentals. I know a lot of people, vendors, that rely on the paychecks from our guests and our customers and the vacation rentals, and I would love for them to come up here to speak tonight also if they want to. I do believe that the solution is we all need to come together and come up with a plan and stop pointing fingers at vacation rentals and people who work for vacation rentals. Just like my colleague Lalo, I also have a phone who rings whenever one of you calls our emergency line, presses option 9. The call comes to me, I answer right away, and I handle the solution as any professional in my work, in my field, and in my company does. Thank you.
Okay, we've gone a little over, but I want to keep going if anybody wants to speak. So if you want to, anybody else here want to come up? Well, I'm trying to give everybody the first chance, George. Let's see if anybody wants to get a chance to speak for the first time that hasn't, or if we have anybody online raising a hand. And do we have any questions on Ask Avalon? Have we checked that lately?
No, nothing.
Okay. Because I do want to say that, you know, this isn't the end of it, obviously, and even if you're here tonight and something occurs to you that you wanted to say, please send an email to us. We're taking all the emails. We are taking, putting every suggestion together, and every time we have one of these meetings, you know, we come up with something new that's like, that's a great idea. We didn't know, you know, people were doing that, or owners were doing that, or neighbors were having these problems. We learn something new every time we hear from you. And in this, I mean, we have 40 plus people. I mean, I know the microphone, the camera is facing this way, but we have 40 plus people in the audience, and that's incredible. You know, to have this kind of input and positive input, and everybody talking about this, no matter, you know, what side you're on this, because I think we're at an exciting moment, because we can address some of these issues, and we can do it, you know, to satisfy both people and probably to tick off both sides, okay? And I think that, you know, we can put some regulations in place that really make sense for us. And I don't think we're that far away. I mean, you talked about how this has been going on for 40 plus years. Changes have been made for the positive. I think a number of years ago, when the council went from the CUP to the business license model, that was a significant step that put us in a position to do some things this time around that we probably wouldn't have been able to do if it was just the CUP. So, you know, please take note that some positive things have happened here. But if anybody wants to speak, again, George, and I know, George, you've already talked, but if anybody new wants to speak, please come up. Okay. And if not, I would ask you, again, I really want to thank everybody on behalf of everybody up here, on behalf of the city. Thank you for coming. Please keep an eye out for the next meeting. We're going to have another one of these, and please keep an eye out for the survey that will be coming out regarding short-term rentals. Thanks, everyone.